All right, hello and welcome to the video lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be solving the delete request challenge. So here we are seeing the HTTP delete method, which is used to delete a specified resource. So far we have seen the get method, which is to basically retrieve a resource, the post method, which is usually used to create a resource, the put method, which is used for updating generally, and now we have the delete method, which is used to delete a resource. So we want to call the delete HTTP method and make a request to our /API route here. So I'll go ahead and put that in our function because we're going to need it later, /API, and we want to make a delete request to this API. So generally the way that delete requests work is that you pass in some unique identifier of the resource that you want to delete in the actual URL itself of the request. So for example, we have this here, /users /, where this represents some unique identifier for the user that you want to delete. And so if we come over here and look at our server code, we have our delete handler right here, and you can see that it is matching this pattern /API /:ID, where this portion here, :ID, is going to basically take it's going to map whatever it finds in this portion of the URL, and it's going to map that to this ID param. And so we can pull that out from this rec.params right here, and then we can get that ID right here. So then, assuming that we were actually going to go delete some resource, we would now have the identifier, and we could then go and find that resource using the identifier, and then we could delete it. Of course, here we're not doing anything fancy. We are just returning a response which includes the ID that we received here, just so we can verify this is working, and that's totally fine. But this is just illustrating the pattern of how you can specify additional information in the path itself for deleting a resource. And you can in fact do this as well with these other HTTP requests. You could do this with a put request, a post request, or even a get request. And I would say this is somewhat common for get requests to have additional params or even query strings in the URL to specify some information that you want to fetch. So if you are curious about that, we can come to MDN, and for example, you can look up, let's just search query string. All right, that's not really what I was looking for. Maybe this one, URL search params. Query string suitable to use in a URL. Yeah, so like this. So this question mark, foo equals 1 and bar equals 2. This is basically the query string parameters, and this is supplying additional data within a URL. And you may have seen some things like this when you are using some kind of online services, and you end up getting these super long URLs that have all kind of information embedded in them. That's because they are using some pattern like this with query strings or with different params, where they are basically passing in a lot of different data in the URL itself, which is indicating something about what you are doing. And then the servers are parsing all of this information, and they're using that to handle responding to you with the correct data on the page. So that's kind of a bit of a tangent, but it's just to show you that there are other ways of embedding and sending data in requests. Sorry about the sirens in the background. Sending data in requests to servers. So here, of course, we are going to want to take this ID and embed it in our URL path, just like this. All right, and then with that, we want to go ahead and just make a delete request, which is going to look very similar to the other requests we've made. So let's start with our try catch, return an error occurred. Can move this in here. And then we're going to have our options, where method is delete, and then response is going to equal await fetch URL options. result, and here we're going to have response.json, and of course we need to await that, and we want to return the result. All right, so let's go ahead and run the tests, and we'll see that that passes the tests. All right, so that is how to make a delete request with the Fetch API. Okay, and with that, we will see you in the next challenge.